Hello and welcome to this week's vlog. I'm finally going to do my March book roundup. So I read 5 books in March, which is quite a lot for me. I know some people read like ridiculous amount of books, but you know, I don't have the time for that really. But I did read 5 books, but 3 of them are really short and the 2 that were longer weren't exactly hard or difficult reads. No 5-star reads again this month, but I do have mostly 4-star reads, so that's good. So yeah, I'm going to do it in ascending order again, like I normally do. So the ones I enjoyed the least at the bottom, and then the last one would be the one I enjoyed the most. So first up is Maya Angelou's A Song Flung Up to Heaven. So this is like the 6th or 7th part of her autobiography. So this is set in about the 60s, and she is coming back from Africa where she was living, and her son was over there and she got married over there. And then obviously in true Maya Angelou style, her marriage was unsuccessful, her relationship was unsuccessful, and then she decided to leave Africa, and as usual as well with Maya Angelou, she left her son behind for someone else to look after. So she came back to America, and it talks about the deaths of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. She doesn't go in particular detail about those 2 men, which I thought was a bit of a shame because I think they're 2 very interesting men. And I watched a documentary on Malcolm X on Netflix a while ago, which I found really interesting because you hear a lot more about Martin Luther King than you do about Malcolm X, because I think basically Martin Luther King was more white palatable, and that's why we know more about him, whereas Malcolm X was much more militant, I guess, and came across as being, I suppose, well, he probably was, and justifiable too, angry about things. So he doesn't really get the same press coverage, at least over here anyway, in the UK, than Martin Luther King. But yeah, she didn't go in major detail about that. It was very samey, you know. Like I said, she had another failed relationship. I think she's had a failed relationship in every single one of these books so far. And she left her son for someone else to look after, which I think she's done in every single book so far. Like, I do love her. I think she's so feisty, so full of, well, she was so feisty, so full of life. But she probably would have been better off not being a mother or like a wife, because those 2 things weren't her forte. Anyway, the second book is Paper Girls by Alex Smith, and it is literally about paper girls. 3 girls go missing while they're delivering papers. So there you go. So this book I did enjoy, and it's the first of a series, and I would read others, but it was nothing spectacular. I knew what was going to happen. I think it was it was really early on. I figured it out, and I had the wrong person at one point. But that was literally, I'd figured that out by the end as well. But yeah, at the beginning I had the wrong person, but I was on the right lines, if that made sense. But yeah, so I did enjoy it, and I gave it like 4 stars. The Maya Angelou one, by the way, I gave 3 stars. This one I gave 4 stars because I did enjoy it, but it was predictable, and I would read another one and probably enjoy that too, but it's nothing spectacular. And yeah, if you want an easy read, enjoyable read, then I'd go for this one, but it's not going to change your life, if you know what I mean. So then the third book I'm going to show you is this is only the second book I've read by this author, and it's by Kate Atkinson, and it's called Shrines of Gaiety. So this is set after the First World War in London in the 1920s. So London is obviously recovering from the effects of the First World War and all the things that have sort of all the people that have been lost in it, all the people who, the men who survived and came back and having to live with the consequences. Obviously, the women have taken on different roles. The world changed a lot, for women as well after the First World War, with being able to vote and all those things. I mean, there are a lot of things in place, clauses in place for women to be able to vote, but some women could vote. I loved how strong and 3D the female characters were in here. I find most of the time you only get that with female authors, and they give men rounded characters as well, but for some reason a lot of male authors don't do that with female authors. They're very 2D, and the most thing that sort of focus on is how they look, how beautiful they are, and then, you know, if they're intelligent as well, and that's like, oh my god, that's like the ideal for a man, to have a beautiful and intelligent woman. And they're always someone's wife first or someone's mother first before they're actually a person. Whereas sort of like if it's a male character and they've got like a child, it's sort of seen as like a footnote. If you know what I mean. That's not the important bit, they are themselves first. But this was really great. I loved Nellie, who they were following, and she was just full of life, feisty, lots of character. I like Gwendolyn, what they followed as well. They did follow two men, Niven and Detective Frobisher, I think it was. That confused me because I've had a character in the book before, I think it was Cloud Atlas, that had the same surname, and I was like, hang on a minute. It's a problem when you read a lot of books, isn't it? Things get repeated, like accidentally. But anyway, once I got over that, and it's based in sort of the notorious Nellie Coker, it said. It's a bit kind of, I guess, gangster-ish, a bit sort of, I say gangster, not really gangster, but sort of the seedy sort of end of London in the 1920s. And I thought that the book was really atmospheric. The writing was good. It wasn't anything exceptional. The story wasn't anything exceptional, nothing groundbreaking, but I did really enjoy it and I would recommend it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I do kind of want to reread the other book that I have got of hers, because it was a while ago and I feel like I do want to read that again. I think it was Life After Life is the other one I've got, and that's still on my bookshelves, so I think I'm going to be rereading that at some point. I don't know when, because I have a lot of books on my to read pile, so we'll see. So on to the 4th book. So this one isn't a novel, this is a bit random. This is called Chakras for Vitality, and it doesn't have an author. It doesn't even say it's been edited by anyone. It literally just says Heron Books there, and that's it. There's no author in the page. But anyway, I'm really interested in chakras, in wellness and self-care, yoga, crystals, all that stuff. It's all linked and I love it all. So this was definitely just a book I'm really interested in. And also it's to do with my business because I incorporate all of what I just said into my business as well. So that's why I was reading this. I did really enjoy it, but obviously it's kind of difficult to give it a star rating. I'll probably give it like 4 or 5 stars because I did find it interesting, and I did have an idea for another wax melt collection from business. So yeah, so that worked out quite well. It was inspirational as well. So yeah, I did really enjoy that, but realised that, you know, for most of you, you're not interested. So the 5th and final book, which was my number 1 of the month, was King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. So I did give this 4 stars. Again, it wasn't a 5-star one. So this is going back into the Grishaverse. So Leigh Bardugo wrote the Shadow and Bone trilogy and the Six of Crows duology. So on TikTok, I follow something like Waterstones Chiswick, which I don't live anywhere near Waterstones Chiswick. It's just, it came up on my feed and I thought the videos were good. So I just watched them, and they recommended to read Six of Crows first, then the 3 Shadow and Bone books, that trilogy, and then read Crooked Kingdom, and then read this book. So that's what I've done. And I can see why they've said that because of the way the story weaves and where the characters are, because some of the characters appear in more than one book. So in like Crooked Kingdom and in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, the character that we follow here, Nikolai, appears in those, and so does the other character they follow in this, Zoya. So Zoya comes across as being a really she is quite a mean, sort of not a very nice character in the previous books, but you feel like she's got a good heart underneath it, as in of what's right, what's wrong, and what's good and what's bad. But you get to know her more in this book, which I liked. And also because we're following Nikolai, so I was quite looking forward to this because Nikolai is one of my favourite characters in all of the books. I wasn't a fan of the Shadow and Bone trilogy, but I did need to read that to then know what was going on in this, and also the Crooked Kingdom, because it's just the timeline. But I would say that the Six Crows duology, and there's another book with this one, which I've not read yet, which I can't remember what it's called. It's Rule of Wolves. Yeah, I think it's Rule of Wolves. It's the second in this, and it is on my to read pile, but I've not read it yet. And I've heard that one is, I'm hoping that one's good as well, because again, it follows Nikolai and carries on with the story from this book. But yeah, I think the Shadow and Bone trilogy was not great. There is a series on Netflix. There's only 2 series, and they're not doing another series apparently. It's just left hanging and unfinished, and it's annoying. And they've kind of mixed the books up, if that makes sense. So that's quite interesting, the way they've done that and woven them in, and they did that quite well, I think. A lot of the casting was good, but I still can't get over the fact that the Darkling in the series doesn't have grey eyes. Like, why couldn't they put contacts in the actor? They left him with his usual colour eyes, which, don't get me wrong, I love brown eyes and everything, but it's just not the character. So anyway, I digress. I think one of the things that I struggle with these books is the characters are supposed to be really young. So when I say really young, I mean like 17. It's a young adult book, so it's dead easy to read. And yeah, I'd say you forget the characters like 17, 20, because there's no way do they act that age or have the like all the experiences they're supposed to have had. They're supposed to have fit in by the time they're like 17. I'm not entirely sure that's accurate. But anyway, so you completely forget the age of the characters. It doesn't feel like, in some ways, the story and stuff, it doesn't feel like it's like a young adult book. It feels more well-rounded, and the problems and stuff aren't like stereotypical, just something that happens to young adults. They're more adult, really, to be honest. Problems and issues and things like that. So yeah, I did really enjoy it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, as I said. But yeah, so that is my March book wrap up. Finally, I'm just gonna ta-da! And the book I am currently reading is by William Boyd, and it's called Restless. It is not the first book I've read this month, because I'm recording this about 2 weeks into April. So I've been reading, the first book I read was quite a short book, and this book is quite a short book as well. So you never know, I might reach the dizzying heights of 5 in a month again. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and if you've got any books you'd like to recommend me, because I'm always up for suggestions. I find you can find some really great books that you've never heard of before from people suggesting their favourites and things like that. So yeah, if you could do that, that would be amazing. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. If you think someone else will like these book suggestions, that would be great. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next vlog.